Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Road in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. We're glad you decided to check us out. God has a specific message of hope for your life and mine today. So listen up.
Meet Billy. In 5 years, Billy will have spent 605 days sleeping and 2.5 full days brushing his teeth, hopefully. He will have sat in traffic for 9 full days. Billy hates traffic. And in 5 years, he will have spent 433 days working. Social media will have taken up 152 consecutive days of his life. He will have walked 3,650 miles and spoken 29.2 million words, hopefully good ones. In 5 years, Billy will have spent 76 days eating and drinking. Billy loves dessert. 2.5 years out of the 5 will be spent consuming media, with 228 days spent watching TV. Billy is messy. He will have spent 152 days cleaning. And in 5 years, he will have spent roughly $40,000 on food, 40 days shopping, and 50 days socializing with the homies. Welcome to you in 5 years.
I mean, any of you guys ever get surprised about any of those numbers that are up there? You don't think 29.2 million words in 5 years? Do you really? I mean, we have some pretty quiet people, and we have some pretty, so some people I know, you probably speak 50. But, some of us, are you surprised about $40,000 on food in the next 5 years? Wow. Do you ever sit down to quantify the stuff that can happen in 5 years? We learned last week that 5 years is a very powerful time. There's a lot of things that can happen in 5 years. You can learn a new skill. You can make some great strides. You can also fall down a big, long hill. There's a lot of things. 5 years is important. It's huge. And it's something we learned last week that God has given us time. He's given us things that are this time is extremely important. And He's given it to you and to me, and every second that you have is valuable. And God is giving you a choice and a way to make an impact at each and every second. And if you came back this week, thank you so much for being here. If it's your first time with us, rock on. Thanks for coming. Appreciate that. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're with us out there, we thank you so much for being a part of that. You can see on our Facebook page. Also here, if you're in town, if you want to follow along in our notes and the scriptures, you can. There's a post on our Facebook page. You can click on that. It takes you right to a page that will allow you to follow along with the notes and stuff. I've heard, you may have heard this phrase, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You ever heard that before? Anybody? It's a Chinese proverb. And I mean, it's not biblical, but it does have a lot of truth in it. And I carry on even further. It's not just that it begins with a single step. It's made up of millions of small steps. The journeys that we make. We talked about 5 years being a long journey. Well, it's made up of a bunch of small steps. A lot of times we treat things like it's a big leap. And if we don't make the big leap, we get discouraged and quit. But what it is, it's going to be a step upon a step upon a step upon a step. We took a small step this week. Steve alluded to our Delivering Hope ministry that we're getting. We got approached by Thomas Redmond, who's the liaison, the homeless for Palm Bay, and saying, hey, we need somebody. We need some church to be a point person for this new program, delivering MREs to homeless people. And then it was so awesome because I was like, okay, I guess we can do it. But I'm like, we're not really big. Yes, we ain't got like thousands of people to throw at this, but the Lord said, hey, let's go for it. And so we threw it out on Vision Sunday, and I didn't make it about 2 steps off the platform. And Bill Harris over there said, hey, I was this dude that I pass every day, or every so often, I turn into Home Depot, and then he moved into another place you're turning into, and he wears military stuff, and I salute him every time. And I've just been thinking, I need to do something to help. And then God had been laying that on his heart, and then here we made that, and then we had a meeting last week with, we just took one little small step. Had a meeting with Thomas Redmond, and then they met on Thursday, started putting some things together, and before you know it, we've got a training coming up on February the 18th on Monday. that 18th? Yes, February 18th on a Monday night at 7 right here. We've got Talk with Jesse. We've got space to store MREs. We've had more people calling in, and we've been gaining more volunteers just because many hands make light work. And we're not delivering so much food, but we're delivering hope to people. That's what we're trying to do. One small step. We have a small step starting here. I think that's cool. I was talking with Kirsten and Kathy Poteet. Kirsten Burns and Kathy Poteet came to me and talked to me and said, hey, we want to start another one-on-one with God group. And that's cool because we're starting to see, last week we did this, we had a one-on-one with God conference, and then we had some one-on-one with God groups start to meet. And what one-on-one with God is basically just teaching you how to really put the disciplines in your life to be a Christian. You know, it's how to look at God's Word and read it consistently and see what God is telling you in the midst of it. You know, how to pray, how to do all these things. And more important, and most importantly as well, I feel, is how to teach that you just learned to somebody else in a very natural and regular way. So much that anybody can do it. And so we've had several groups that met last year. We've had people out of those groups begin to meet because that's the point of those groups. The point of learning how to be with, to listen to God and to learn about what He's got for you is not just the fact that you do it, it's so that you can make disciples, because that's our mission, making disciples here and there, here and everywhere for the glory of God. And so you have that small step. The conversations class is amazing because when you look for somebody to disciple, here's 3 things you look for: the faithful, available, and teachable. And I'm going to tell you, there's nobody more faithful, available, and teachable than someone whose life has just been changed by Christ. And when you share the gospel with someone, and their life has changed, and they're clued in for the first time, like, what, really? And they understand it, at that moment is the best time in the world to teach them how to follow Christ. So, I mean, it's crucial for us to learn how to share our faith and how to explain that, and not in an argumentative way. I love the title of that class is Conversations, because it's not a presentation, it's not a debate, it's not an argument. And in this culture, we need conversations more than anything. Not confrontations, but conversations. And that's what we're trying to learn to do, is to share like that. Those small steps may seem little, but they're going to pay huge dividends over time. And I want to talk about a guy this morning in the Old Testament, it's a prophet in the Old Testament, who showed us that little things make big impacts. Now, his name is Elisha. Have you ever heard of Elisha? You know, you may have heard of Elijah and get confused with that. Well, Elisha he was a great prophet in his own right, but he was the successor to the great prophet Elijah. You know, what the story goes is Elijah is on the run. You know, he's on the run from people who are after him. Because, see, that's how it was with the prophets. Because, see, a lot of times the prophets in the Old Testament, they were called to go tell somebody, hey, God's mad with you. You need to stop it. And sometimes God's like, I want you to relay this in a very, very dramatic way, you know, and it's just crazy things that they would do. Prophets had it difficult. It was both thankless and adventurous at the same time. I think about Ezekiel, who had to lay on his side naked, not work out and then do it, but just lay on his side naked for 390 days in the middle of the village in front of everybody. You don't think about God going to call you to do that. You know, that's not one of the things, right? You know, he also, God wanted him to, said, I want you to symbolically, he said, when he got through with the 390 days, did he get to quit? No, he just had to roll over and lay 40 days on the other side, right there in front of everybody. Does it really make your social standing really awesome? You know, I also remember, you know, what he had to cook his, God said, I want you to symbolically do this. I want you to take your beans and I want you to cook them over your own poop. That's what I want you to do. That does compute with me. What kind of theological statement? I mean, God explained it later, but I mean, at the point, can you imagine? And Elijah Ezekiel talked him down. He kind of was like, hey, can I at least do it over cow? Because it's not mine. And, you know, and all that. And God was like, okay, I'll let you use cow manure. It's fine. We'll make that work. I mean, so you see, it's not always the easiest job in the world. But, you know, they got a lot of press in the Bible, you know, and made a lot of big things. And so here's Elijah. He's on the run from somebody. He's ticked off, right? And God says to him, look, hey, it's time for you to get a successor. You're not getting any younger. You know, at some point, you got to pull somebody along to teach them how to do what you do. You have to help make a disciple. You bring somebody along to do what you do. Your apprentice under you. And he says, look, I want you to go get this guy named Elisha, which Should seem make perfect sense. I'm Elijah, and I want to just got to follow me. Elisha sounds the same, but not quite. A little bit different. That's great. So he goes. So you hear in 1 Kings 19:19. He says, so Elijah went from there, and he found Elisha, son of Shaphat, and he was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, and he himself was driving the 12th pair. And Elijah went up to him and threw his cloak around him. Now, the first thing you need to know about Elisha here that you may not get, you see that he's a son of Shaphat. You may buzz past that he was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, but what that tells us there is his family was pretty rich. He was pretty well-to-do. That's 12 yoke of oxen he was plowing, okay? But he was plowing the 12th on his own. So he had other servants and other people that were working under him that were plowing the other oxen. And you got to understand something. Back in that day, a team of oxen is kind of like a tractor. This will let you know how rich his family was and what position that he was in. If I went and looked up what a John Deere tractor is, I'm talking about the bottom of the line, the cheapo row crop tractor for a John Deere brand new. You should go look this up. Guess how much it costs? No. You'd lose on prices, right? No. 110 grand. One John Deere tractor, cheapo, bottom of the line. That's the 5 series, I think what it is, when I looked it up. We had Massey Ferguson's when I was growing up. We had like one, and we always bought it used, and I wondered why. Now I know. $110,000 for it, and he had 12 tractors, basically. So everybody's looking at this massive farm operation that's going on, and they think, boy, this dude, if there's anybody got it made, it's got to be Elisha. He's got the giant, he probably had the big house and all these type of things, and he's sitting here set for life as the son of Shaphat and the head of and second in command in this big farm outfit. But Elijah goes up to him, and he puts his cloak over him. And what that was basically saying is, look, I want you to come be with me, and I'm going to train you, shared that with him, train you to be the prophet after me. And you got to love what Elisha did. He said, look, he took his crops. He broke up his plows, and he started a fire, and he killed his oxen, and he cooked his oxen, and him and Elijah ate. And then it says in verse 21, it says, then he set out to follow Elijah and became his servant. All right, now, let me tell you something, okay? We see that, so here they go. He's charging off into the unknown. I'm, wild blue yonder. It's an adventure. Here I go. I'm leaving this thing, and the prophet of Israel, I'm going to be the next. Yeah, this is going to be awesome. But for 18 years, you don't hear anything about this guy. Do you know that? The next 18 years, nothing. Well, you hear one thing. What we know that he did for the next 18 years, the really only thing we know is that he washed Elisha's hands. I'm serious. For 18 years. He thinks I'm jumping out on this adventure. Can you imagine? You can imagine. Here he is. Elisha's there and said, all right, let's go. Okay, all right, Elisha. Okay, Elijah, let's do this. Let's go drop some prophecy on somebody. Let's go Jonah all over somebody and take down a big city or something like that. Let's do it. Let's do it. And Elijah goes, okay, great. I said, why don't you wash my hands? And Elisha's like, okay. I was just, okay, Mr. Miyagi, I'll wash your hands. And so he pours some water over his hand and washes his hands. And then it's like, Elijah goes, thank you very much. Needed that. Let's go. And for 18 years, all we know is that's what he did. You're second in command at a giant farm operation, and you make your big career move, and you end up a hand washer. Little squirty stuff, hand washer. That's probably not the best thing. You see, from a rich son of Shaphat to a hand washer. Basically, you turn into the water boy. That's some high-quality H2O. For 20 years. Mama didn't tell me that. At least with the water boy, you know the movie The Water Boy? At least with the water boy, at least it was from zero to hero. It's kind of the opposite way. with Elisha, he goes from hero down to zero almost. And you know, he had to be thinking, he's sitting there going, why am I washing this dude's hands? We don't ever see real explanation. There's not like a supplement to the book of Kings there. It says, and Elijah had him wash hands because. You have to dig around to find some reasons for that. But for almost 20 years, I thought this was going to be a great honor. And I'm this dude's butler. And he probably saw some amazing things happen around him. He's going, why in the world am I not, why? Why am I not seeing this? Why am I not stepping up to what I thought I was going to be? But all we know is that all he did was wash Elijah's hands. And so it goes on. Elijah, it's time for him to leave. And I don't know, you can go look up the story and read it yourself, but that was a pretty wacky way that Elijah passed the mantle and he went to heaven. He didn't die. He called like a heaven Uber and jumped in a fiery chariot and he was gone. You can read that yourself. And so now it's Elisha's got the mantle and he's on. Elijah is gone to heaven. He's done, and he starts out with a bang in his career. He jumps out and there's a town that needed their water supply, fixed. And so they call the water boy. And so he goes over and fixed their water supply, right? Okay, that's great. And then right after that, he's been with Elijah so long, he's bald now, and his kids come out, and they make fun of him for being bald, and he curses them, and she-bears come out of the wood and tear all the kids up, and DCF gets involved, and it's just not a pretty picture, So not really great. Kind of a weird start out there for Elisha, okay? And you're thinking, he's got to be thinking, what in the world is going on here? But then we come to chapter 3 in 2 Kings, okay? And you start to see the pieces coming together. See, what has happened, is Israel, the kingdom of Moab, king of Moab has started to rebel against Jehoshaphat. And so Jehoshaphat, who's a king, goes and gets his other two buddies, two other kings, and they all get together and say, hey, we're going to take Moab down because, we've had a transition in the throne in his kingdom. And so Moab thought that that's a great place to kind of break free. And so they've got these three kings and all their armies, and they're going to take Moab down, right? And so you see them. So the king of Israel set out with the king of Judah in verse 9 and the king of Edom. And after a roundabout march of 7 days, that's code for there is no GPS. That's what that is. After a roundabout march of 7 days, the armies had no more water for themselves or for their animals with them. You got to love that roundabout march. I mean, it's, charge over here, nope, over here, and then all of a sudden nobody's got any water and everybody's tired and they're slowing down, the bugle player can't play, stuff like that, and they're all worn out. And then the king says, what? Exclaimed the king of Israel. I got to imagine the what? What? How does that fit? What? The inflection of that. It says, what? Exclaimed the king of Israel. Has the Lord called us three kings together only to deliver us into the hands of Moab? But Jehoshaphat asked, is there no prophet of the Lord here through whom we may inquire of the Lord? So they're like, hey, God, we thought we were doing what's right. We need to ask God. That'd be great if our nation and our government, if you just ask God what you want. Let's ask God what he wants us to do to fix this. So he does, and so he says, is there not a prophet of the Lord? And what that basically means is somebody about to get fired. The king is mad. Somebody's about to get fired. He's not happy. And so there's this officer who's scrambling for something to say. Have you ever been there with your boss? You're scrambling for something to say. It's a mess. Everything's blown apart, and you don't want to fall on you. So this officer in the king of Israel in verse 11, he says, an officer of the king of Israel answered, Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here. And I want you to see what comes next, okay? He used to pour water on the hands of Elijah. For 18 years, Elisha may have wondered, am I wasting my time because I'm just pouring water on this dude's hands? Why am I doing this? When's he going to train me? What's this going to be? And at the most opportune time in the world, three kings together, three powerful nations need somebody. And somebody, what did they remember him by? he used to pour water on the hands of Elijah. They didn't remember, wow, do you remember that dude, the dude that fixed like the water of that giant village? No. You remember the dude that these kids made fun of him, and he's really bad, man. He cursed them, and then she-bears came out of the woods and just took them all out. Y'all ought to think about that when you make fun of bald people. I'm just saying. No, I'm not doing it. But anyway, you think about that. No, they didn't say any of those things. What they said was, look, what he was remembered by, his identity that came, was he used to pour water on the hands of Elijah. I'm going to tell you something about Elisha. That didn't just stop right there. At that moment, he came, he helped them. He became known as a patriot, and for 6 decades, he was the go-to prophet in Israel. And a lot of it started right in here. This is a hinge moment for him in his life. And I'll tell you something else. Most of the miracles and things that he's associated with, if you go back and read through them, they have to do with water in some way or another. It's amazing. So the water boy just kept on going. I see, here's what that says. A truth about us is this, okay? We tend to overestimate what we can do in the short term and underestimate what we can do in the long term. How does that go, Jim? I'll give you an example. This is why people start with the gym in January, and in 3 weeks, they haven't lost 50 pounds, and they're too sore to walk, and the schedule is coming down, and they say, well, I failed, and I quit, and they don't go back. Statistics show that most people who join in January are usually going by July. They're rarely going at that point. They're just paying dues for something they're never going to use. Hey, is that you? Just saying. Because we think life is a giant leap, but it's not. We think we can do more in the short term. We overestimate what we can do in the short term, and we underestimate what we can do in the long term. You look at those numbers that were on that video at the beginning. I mean, some of those to me are staggering. I didn't realize that that's what I would have done in 5 years, that kind of impact. But that's just every day for 5 years, little things on top of other little things that make a big impact. That's why we start out in the gangbusters in the gym and then we quit. The dude that starts out, he's going to run a 5K and he goes 1,000 miles an hour, and then he ends up having a heart attack in about mile 1, because it's not how well you do in the short term. It's the little things in the long term. I was really impressed by that this last year, and I talked about the campaign, okay enough. But there's one more thing. I was just overwhelmed. How are we going to walk a lot of these neighborhoods? Because Katie walked a lot of these neighborhoods, right? And I tell you, she just didn't freak out. She just made her plan. She had her maps, and she had her streets. And then every day for an hour or two, sometimes more, a little bit more, just a little bit every day. And before you know it, she'd walk all these places. And she's having people come up to her and go, down in Palm Bay where all the roads are bad, where it's like, the jungle trek, down through there, in the Amazon jungle where you're like, as you're driving down the street, she's down there and people going, no one has ever come to my door to hand out anything about anything political. Certainly not the candidate themselves. But little bit, over and over, little steps, over and over, one step at a time, staying consistent, little things done consistently make a big impact. See, little things done consistently have a bigger impact than big things done once. You realize that? And over a 5-year journey, I'm going to tell you, if you start at this and God said, hey, this is where I want you to go in 5 years. Here's a place. I want you to start out this way. God's probably not going to tell you in 5 years you're going to be X. He's going to say, I want you to start taking a step this way. And over time, step after step after step, God's going to make a change in your life because little things done consistently have a bigger impact than big things done only once. I want to share with you some ways to start the one little step, to start the journey. Now, I wish I could say these were original, but they're not. I got this from a podcast I listened to one time with a pastor named Craig Groeschel. He shared these things. This is something that he does every year, and I said, okay, this is awesome. I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to try to do it, but I wanted to share it with you. Here's 3 things that I want you to do. 3 things to do to start this new journey. Okay, you ready? This year, this week, I want you to pick a new discipline to start. Just a discipline to start. Well, I think I should, no. Start out with something really small. Don't go grand. Start with something small. I've shared with you before. There was a time I needed to start some more discipline in my life. So what did I start doing? I started making the bed. I didn't make the bed before, so now I try to make the bed. And you say that's nuts, but I'm going to tell you it's great, because what happens is discipline repeated creates momentum, and it gives you energy. That's what happens. And so it's a little thing, but I started with that. Started creating discipline, creates more discipline. And that discipline created creates momentum. And that spills over, because discipline is not a characteristic that can stay contained in just one area of your life. You'll find out if you become more disciplined in one thing, it'll start spilling over into other things of your life, and you'll want to change them. And I'm going to do that different. When I started saying, okay, I'm not getting out of bed until I go through this reading plan, and I'll be honest with you, the reading plan was a little bit more ambitious than some of the things that I've done, and I've started them. And when I was reading through the Bible in a year, they're a little bit more ambitious than what I've done before, a little bit different than what I've done before. But I said, no, I'm just going to stick through it. I'm going to do that. Now I love opening up my Bible app and I see, hey, perfect streak and all this stuff going on. And I've continued to stay with that. And over time, as the discipline has built there, it spills over to some other things in my life. And you'll find that too. So building discipline, pick a discipline to start. Something small, something you can do. One little change in your life. We talked about a lot of them on the first week. We talked about some, if you read just for 15 minutes a day, in 5 years, you could have read 50 books, 50 average-sized books. And you think about maybe you read one book before, and that book changed your life, and you just said, okay, that's enough. My life has been changed. I don't need to go back and read anymore. And you've let that out. Could you imagine that life-impacting book happening 50 times in the next 5 years? Where would that put you? I don't think you could even predict what God could do in your life in that time. Imagine if you just read your Bible for 15 minutes a day for the next 5 years. What would you know? What would you do? Here, I'm going to tell you something else. The second thing is pick something to stop. Don't just start something. Pick a habit that's not cool, that's not helping you, and stop it. Maybe it's you need to stop drinking soft drinks. Maybe that's an easy one. It's not easy for some people, but maybe that's what you need to do. One small thing to stop. One thing to start, one thing to stop. Pick something small, something that you can gain positive momentum from. Maybe if you can't completely stop soft drinks, you say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm only going to drink soft drinks on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm not going to drink any. And you start there. See how it goes. Just going to make it, okay, I can make it till tomorrow. I just get to bed. I get to sleep earlier because you want that Coke, and it's going to have to be tomorrow. You do that. Start with something small and create momentum in your life. But here's the other thing. Find a person to empower. You see, Elisha started out with a small thing. We see in this story, he started out with something small. He stopped doing his job. He started doing the other job. But it's all because God directed Elijah to pick someone to empower. And through that, amazing things. Go read about Elisha's life. We'll talk some more about it. I'm so excited about next week. We're going to be talking about some amazing things, continuing with the story of Elisha, that you're just not going to believe. And we're going to see what God, the limits, the breadth of what God can do in a life next week. It's going to be amazing. Do not miss next week. You need to bring a friend. It's going to be amazing. But that you pick someone to empower. This goes right along with the mission of Bay West Church. Our mission is off of Matthew 28, 19, and 20, where we're supposed to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey all the things that I've commanded you. All of those things. This is part of our mission. It's about empowering other people with the gospel. Sharing with them what we've known, what's changed our lives, and teaching them how to implement that into their life. This is about making disciples, a person to empower, because little things done consistently following Christ multiply exponentially. Little things get huge. When God leads you to something, it might be small, like washing some dude's hands, and you might think it's worthless or stupid or it needs to stop or whatever, but if God led you there, it's valuable. And just like last week when we talked about every time, every second, every moment that you have is valuable, and we talked about the peanut butter jar, and when the peanut butter jar gets kind of empty, you want to throw it away, don't do it. Grab the spatula and get everything out of it. Same thing when God gives you something to do, something small, something to change. When He tells you what discipline you need to start, pour yourself into that little bitty thing. Accomplish it, own it, rock it, and see what God does back for you. So when you follow, see that what you don't think about is this: the vigor and the energy with which Elisha washed Elijah's hands was enough to identify him to a king. The energy with which he took on the small things became an identity that stood out to one of the biggest people in the area, to the ruler of not one but 3 nations. You know, and from the moment that he helped them, he went on to be called a patriot, like I said, and to be honored, and to be the prophet of Israel, the go-to guy for 60 years. When you follow Jesus in small things, into a small thing, the impact of that small thing doesn't stay small for long. You know that? Because he who is faithful with little will be given much. In Luke 16, Jesus laid it out. He said, if you're faithful in the little things, you will be faithful in the large ones. And furthermore, he says in another parable in Matthew 25:21, he says, you have been faithful in a few things, I will put you in charge of many things. Now come and share your master's happiness. So it's not just that the principle, if you're faithful in little things, you'll be faithful in the big things. But God says, I'm going to back that up. If you're faithful in little things, I'm going to give you more things to be in charge of, because I want the impact that you're making on the small thing to be. A lot of times we wait for that opportunity and we think it's just going to be this big thing, and then I'm going to take it. I'm going to go from zero to hero. And that's not how it works, like in a second. Sometimes it's steps. It's over time. It's because you're so faithful and poured into what you do that God gave you that He's going to make an incredible impact. And it's waiting on the other side of when you submit to do what He's given you with all that you have. That's when it's coming. It's not coming from somewhere else. Little things done faithfully, with consistency, become bigger things. And even though you may not even know how big, for 20 years maybe, long after the thing you were done is long gone and over. This is years. This is time. The identity was set. He was no longer washing anyone's hands. It was over. And then he started to see the impact of where God had led him. And that's how God does things, because He wants you to obey Him because you trust Him, not because you make sense out of it, not because you think you got it figured out and all those type of things. He wants you to obey Him because you trust Him. And when you put that trust in Him, He shows you that it's worth your while. Now, you may be a Christian here today, and God may have laid some things on your heart that you need to be doing. Some things you need to stop, maybe a little thing, maybe a big thing. There may be some things you need to start. And you've been holding off on it because you think, okay, that's kind of meh. I'm waiting for the bigger deal. If I hang on, I'll see something bigger. And God's like, God's not going to give you the bigger until you start the smaller. And you need to begin there in your life. Maybe God's not going to make you a theological genius until you say, I'm going to start reading the Bible a little bit every now and then. About a little bit every day. And create a habit. Maybe you're not going to be rich, and you're not going to have, you're looking at, man, my bank account is crappy. I can't keep up with what God has for me. Until you trust God and do the little things that He has before you, maybe He's not going to show you how He's making the case for you, how He's taking care of you. Maybe there's things that you need to do in your career and in your job that you feel like are demeaning, that you feel like are beneath you. And out of pride, you're refusing to do them. Maybe you need to change that, flip that, and pour yourself into what's before you in humility and energy, and then see what God does with that. maybe that's the place that you need to go next. If you're a Christian, that's awesome. Because here's the deal. You have an opportunity to speak to God and have God tell you, this is where you need to spend your time. You don't have to guess if it's right or wrong because God is going to show you. If you don't have a relationship with Christ, only thing I can tell you is it's a needle in a haystack because you won't have any other way to know because God is the only one that knows. There is no other outside standard that's going to work and plow through life well. There's no other program. You know, if you don't like Tony Robbins, you go get somebody else. No, there's not that, because this is far above and beyond any of that stuff. Because your life and my life, the purpose of it all at the beginning is to show God's glory in the world and through what we're doing. And when we follow Him and we have no other reason to do it but what He told us to do, and we tell people, I don't know what I'm doing. I just did what I felt like the Lord told me to do, and it blows up, and they go, how did that blow up? I don't have a formula for you. You need to look back at Jesus. Because that's what your 5 years is about. You know that? That's what your 10 years is about. That's what your 20 years is about. That's what your 80 years is about. Until you die, how much can you point to Jesus? And that's the formula for success. I can't make it any clearer than that. I'm screwed up. I needed a Savior. I went to Jesus, and He saved me, and I'm following Him. And anything good that happens comes from Him. And anything that's screwed up is because I tried to do it my way. And that's the story of my life. And it's the story of us all. So if you are here today and you don't have a relationship with Jesus, that is the place that you need to start. I can't give you any other starting point. That's it. Well, you recognize I'm not doing it right. I believe Jesus came down. He was the Son of God. He lived a perfect life. He died on a cross, and so that I can be reconnected to God, and now I can know what I need to do and how I need to be and where I need to go, and that's the way it is, taken care of for eternity. That's a wonderful deal. It's so sad that people don't trust it. But that little thing, and that one, and the one you just thought of, that could be the place where God makes the hugest impact in your life, the largest impact over the next 5 years. But you're going to have to take the step to see it.
Thanks for being a part of Bay West today. Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Road in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. Please feel free to check us out at baywestchurch.org, or you can follow us on Facebook at Bay West Church.